There's a walled city inside Metro Manila that has survived 4 centuries of war, occupation, earthquake, and demolition, and most people who live 20 minutes away have never walked through its gates. Intramuros is 64 hectares. That's smaller than many subdivisions. You can walk its perimeter in under an hour. And yet inside that space is a version of the Philippines that existed before the Philippines had that name, a city built by people who intended it to last forever, and a story about what it means when something nearly disappears but doesn't quite. This is worth understanding slowly. When Miguel Lopez de Legazpi established Manila as the colonial capital in 1571, the choice of location was deliberate. The mouth of the Pasig River, access to the bay, defensible on multiple sides. He had seen what Spanish colonial cities looked like in Mexico and Peru, and he intended to build something in that same tradition here: stone walls, a grid of streets, a cathedral at the center. What's interesting is that the walls weren't built all at once. They evolved. Early versions were wooden, then stone, then reinforced. By the time construction settled into its final form in the 17th century, the walls of Intramuros were up to 6 meters thick in certain sections. Not 6 meters tall, 6 meters thick. Built to absorb cannonballs, not just deflect them. Everything inside those walls was designed around a specific idea. The Spanish called it a ciudad, a city, in the full European sense. Churches, government buildings, a university, residences for the colonial elite, convents, schools. Outside the walls were the other communities: Chinese merchants in the Parian, indigenous Filipinos in surrounding areas. Japanese traders before the 1603 massacre changed that relationship entirely. And this is where it shifts, because Intramuros was never just a government compound, it was an argument, a physical, architectural argument that Spain was here permanently, that this wasn't a trading post or a military outpost. This was a capital. This was civilization in the terms the Spanish defined it. The walls communicated that before anyone spoke a word. But here's where it gets complicated. The city inside the walls was not stable, it was repeatedly tested. In 1762, the British actually took Manila, a detail that rarely comes up in standard Philippine history. For 20 months, British forces occupied the city during the 7 Years' War. The Spanish eventually got it back through a separate treaty negotiated on the other side of the world in Europe, between people who had never seen the Pasig River. What people don't realize is how many times Intramuros was damaged, rebuilt, modified, and renegotiated over its 4 centuries of existence. It wasn't a static museum piece. It was a living city that kept absorbing the consequences of decisions made far away. There were earthquakes, significant ones in 1645 and again in 1863, that destroyed or badly damaged major structures. Each time, the buildings were repaired or rebuilt, sometimes in modified form. The cathedral alone has been destroyed and reconstructed 6 times. The building you can visit today is not the original structure. It is the 6th version of a church that has been standing in the same location since 1571. That detail stands out because there's something in it about how Intramuros operated as a place. It wasn't precious, it was functional. When something broke, you fixed it. When something collapsed, you rebuilt it. The location mattered more than any individual structure on it. And then came 1945. This is the part of the story that requires a moment. The Battle of Manila in February 1945 is one of the most devastating urban battles of World War II, and one of the least discussed outside the Philippines. American forces were advancing from the north. Japanese forces had declared Manila an open city and then reversed that decision. What followed was a month of fighting inside the city itself, building by building, room by room. The civilian death toll is estimated at between 100,000 and 240,000 people in 1 month, in one city. Intramuros was almost completely destroyed. The walls survived in large part because of their thickness, but almost everything inside them was rubble. The churches, the government buildings, the convents, the residences, the university reduced in a matter of weeks to stone and dust. What's interesting is that the post-war decisions about what to do with Intramuros were not straightforward. There were proposals to modernize it completely, to build over the ruins with new structures. The land was valuable, the location was central, and the city needed rebuilding quickly. For a period, Intramuros was partially a golf course. That detail is not a metaphor. A golf course was actually built within the walls of the old city, on top of where Spanish-era Manila had stood. Here's where it gets complicated again. The preservation movement that eventually pushed back against further development didn't fully gain traction until the 1970s. Restoration work began on some structures. Fort Santiago, which had been used as a detention and torture site under both Spanish and Japanese occupation, was opened as a park. Some sections of the walls were repaired. But the version of Intramuros that exists today is not a complete restoration. It's a partial one. Some streets follow the original colonial grid, some buildings are reconstructed, some are original remnants, and some sections are simply gone, replaced by a golf course that still exists, by roadways, by modern structures that crept in during the decades when no one was certain what Intramuros was supposed to become. What people don't realize is that underneath the current ground level, there is another Intramuros. Archaeological excavations have found layers of the original city foundations, artifacts, evidence of daily life from the 16th, 17th, 18th centuries sitting below the surface of the streets people walk on today. The city didn't just get bombed, it got buried, and what was rebuilt on top of it is only part of the story. The detail that stands out most when you walk through Intramuros today is the scale of the remaining walls. Most visitors focus on Fort Santiago, on the cathedral, on the museums. But the walls themselves deserve attention. They are not decorative. They are enormous. The baluartes, the angular defensive projections at the corners, still show the geometry of military engineering. The gates still have the grooves where portcullises would have lowered. These are not ruins. They are a functioning defensive structure from the 17th century, sitting in the middle of a 21st century megacity. You can stand on top of the walls in sections where access is allowed and see both sides at once. On one side, the golf course, the streets of the old city, the cathedral dome. On the other, Manila Bay, the sunset that has been called one of the most beautiful in Asia for 400 years. The reclaimed land where new developments are going up along the shore. Those two views, from the same spot, are essentially the entire argument about what the Philippines has been and what it is becoming. Intramuros isn't a museum yet. It isn't a neighborhood exactly. It exists in a category of its own, a preserved fragment inside a city that never stopped moving around it. And the question it raises isn't really about history. It's about what a place is. For once it stops being used the way it was originally intended. The walls were built to keep people out. Now they're the reason people come in. Have you ever walked through Intramuros and thought about what was standing there before?